Hey, this is Bob Sears again. Wanted to start by asking everybody if you could, like this page, follow it. Also, leave your comments. I would love to know what you want to talk about. And yesterday at the end, I made the mistake of doing it at the end. I asked, I'd like to come up with a name for this. I jokingly referred to it as driving home with Bob in the Camaro after the gym, but I was hoping for a catchier insight from somebody because that's a bit long. Anyway, I'm going to continue with mindset. I talked a little bit about your internal thermostat yesterday, and I'm going to kind of continue with that because I blame you. I do. And I also blame myself. So what does that mean? We are where we're at because of us. Like, there's no secret to it. Everybody thinks, let me rephrase that. A lot of people think that life just happens to them, and it does, but it's predicated on the thoughts, feelings, desires we have, and we use, whether you believe it or not, this thing of law of attraction, and I know there's been a lot of misgivings to that, law of intention, whatever it is, but whatever the mind focuses on, you get that result. The challenge is most people looks at their surroundings and they go, everything is horrible, and then they're focused on everything is horrible, and then they keep getting more of the horrible stuff, and they don't understand why. And successful people, wealthy people, people who seem to get the things that they want and desire are those people who know that they need to focus on the things that they want to go to, right? So, you have a thought, it becomes a feeling, you take action, and then it creates a result. And some people are going to argue that, and some people aren't going to believe that. And, if that's the case, then, I always say you can't really help someone who doesn't want to be open-minded. One of the most detrimental things, T. Harv Eker says, he goes, saying I know is like one of the most dangerous things, because you don't know something unless you do it. And until you do it, you don't have a permanent change in your behavior. I've said before, and I'll say it again, people don't fail because of what they don't know. They fail because they always and don't put in the things, the practices that they do know. So when you start to focus on the things that you do know and actually implementing them, right? The key term, the key phrase is implementing the action, then you get results. So what happens is a lot of people go through life and go, nothing good happens to me, but they're not focused on, well, what is that good? What do I want to do? How do I get there? As a business strategist, because I care about helping people, like that's my primary goal. I think anybody who's successful actually really wants to help people achieve that result. There's this misgiving for wealthy people, successful people. They got there because they were lucky. They got there but there's so much hard work. There's so much diligence and consistency of going out and trying things and failing and learning, and there's a process to that. And a lot of people just don't do it. It takes work, right? It takes time, effort, energy, as I say. So you really want to understand that, and you got to put down some results that you like to achieve, and you got to focus on that, and you got to be emotionally, one of the challenges of The Secret was that it talked about you just focus on things and they come to fruition, and it's not really like that. Especially there's a gap in that it's really the feeling. Remember I said the feeling generates the action. And if you're not feeling empowered, and again, law of attraction talks about vibrations and that type of thing, and people go, well, how do I get into a good vibration? Well, you certainly don't do it when you feel like horrible. But I want you to think back to a moment in time when you were excited about something, you accomplished a goal, you got an A in school that you worked really hard for, you got a pat on the back from someone who you never expected to get a pat on the back for. Something happened that you were like, wow, I just did something and it's amazing and I feel amazing. And think about the energy that you put off and feel in that internal guidance system that we have. Because frankly, that's what it is. It's an internal guidance system when we feel good or bad about what we do. So if you don't feel good about something, it's probably not going in the right direction. We've all had that moment in time where we think of a friend and then he calls us like 5 minutes later and you're like, I was just thinking about you. And that happens probably numerous times throughout the year or throughout your life, and you just think it's a coincidence. It's not a coincidence. How can it happen that many times and it be a coincidence? It happens to everybody else, right? There is that attraction. There is that tendency to connect. So again, whether you believe that or not, I tend to tell people how it is, not what they want to hear. And that goes with everything we're talking about right now. Whether you believe me to be right or believe me to be wrong, that's your belief. It's Henry Ford saying, whether you think you're wrong, whether you think you're right, that's what you're going to get, right? So I need you to understand those things and really work on a daily basis to be conscious of what you're thinking and feeling. Because the first thing you got to do is recognize that, right? Like, you really got to recognize that's happening. And then once you realize that, it really changes the game, because you can really get to where you want to go. We're going to talk a little more about the strategy behind this. I want to give a quick story, because I've worked with a lot of different gurus, and I sold packages anywhere from $5,000 to $75,000, at seminar rooms for people. Always with the intention, I want this to be clear, and this is one of the primary drivers for me, is that anything I sell is always with a moral obligation. A moral obligation is sell someone in their own best interest, to help them go through a threshold of making an informed decision in their best interest. What does that mean? Like, I know they need this and they're hesitating because of fear, and I know if they get whatever the product service is, they're going to get a greater result, and they're able to do that. Like, I don't sell anybody who's not has the capacity to do that. And I'm going to share how this came to me when I was working with Tony Robbins and Chet Holmes, but it was impacted the first time I was in the back of the room helping someone. His name was Jeffrey, and we were selling a package. It was about $35,000, and it was going to help him bring a product to service that it was really cool. He teaches people how to play a memory game on their body. I mean, think about this. And we were teaching how to use a book as a marketing tool. And he knew he needed this to break through and really have a successful business. And the challenge was, he had gone through probably every bad life event that could happen to you at that moment in time. Like, he lost his job. And by the way, the boss was very abusive, so it was a challenge there. He actually said to me, he goes, he was just really abusive. I did everything and anything I could, and he still was kind of a jerk to me. He said that he lost his cat, right? His cat died, and his father died, all within like a very short period of time. And he comes to our event, and he's broke. I mean, he's broke. And I realized that a $30,000 package may not be the best thing for him, or a $35,000 package. But I dedicated Sunday. We had just done, and I'll admittedly say, we do what's called a hard close to really move people off the fence, whether they're going to move forward or not. It's okay with us. It never was a huge issue. But if they were going to move forward, this was the time to do it. And when I started talking to him and realized, it really wasn't a good fit for him financially, I said, let me help you. I'm going to show you, and for those who do or don't know, a value ladder, and I'll explain that some other time, but a value ladder in his business to get him some breakthroughs. And although he did have some gigs coming up for public speaking and making some money, at that moment in time, he didn't really have a lot. So he comes in, and after like an hour, I actually missed lunch to do this. Like, I really wanted to just help him. I gave him some. He was really excited. And then he took that information and he went in to the front of the break ended, the lunch break ended. He went up to the front of the room. And the first break we had after that, he came over to me. And by the way, there's two things I said to him. I said, one, if you do make a decision, because he said to me, well, he actually said something to me that is where I learned that you can't really count someone out. He said to me, he goes, Bob, this isn't I should do this. It's I must do this. Like, should, Tony always says you should all over yourself. He was saying, I'm going to figure this out. And I'm looking at him, I'm like, okay. I go, I get it. He goes, I am going to talk to 100 people a day, but I am going to figure this out. So what can you do? I said, Jeffrey, I agree with you. I'm going to be open-minded here. I'm going to give you a week, because if I put some kind of time limit, then it really forces you in the universe to figure something out. I said, secondly, when you make a commitment this great, right, because you're going to find out in 3 months, if you do this, something's going to happen in your life that's going to totally change because you made this decision, and you're going to go be thankful for it. I said, the opposite is true. If you don't do this, 3 months from now, something's going to happen, and you're going to go, because I didn't participate in this, I don't get to take part in this event. Anyways, he goes up to the front of the room, and he agreed, and it was all about commitment. And this is why I say mind is so powerful. He comes back in the first break, and he stands about 2 feet away from me. And he starts crying. It's the first person I ever dealt with in an event. And he starts crying. And I said, and he goes, I'm paying in full. I'm like, Jeffrey, 2 hours ago you couldn't even buy lunch. What are you talking about? He goes, the woman next to me is paying my tuition. She's paying this in full for me so I can do my dream. I was shocked. I was stunned. It was actually the second time in my life that I had seen things come to fruition that I didn't believe could happen. And he generated $35,000 from nothing except his emotional desire, his commitment, in literally less than 10 minutes. I want you to think about that. Now, as a miracle as that was, I'd see that happen every weekend. Every weekend. One woman knew she needed to do it. She had no money. She couldn't figure out how she was going to make it happen. She went home. She realized that her dad passed away and left her an inheritance that she had in her insurance policy she hadn't cashed in. Another person didn't know where the money was going to come from, went home and realized that they had a credit card that they had gotten that they never even used. Another person, a friend helped. It was every week there was a person. So I started asking a different question when someone said, and because you can never judge a person and what they're capable of. And we do all the time, but we shouldn't. And I started finally, when people said, I can't afford to do this, I said, but I really want to do this, I said, listen, then I'm not going to make any judgments, but ask yourself a different question. Ask, how can I afford to do this? How can I make this happen in my head? I said, don't stress about it. Go home, think about it, and see what happens. And that's what I started doing, and that's where all these people started generating, because we all get the excuses, not enough time, not enough money, not enough resources. And guess what? No entrepreneur starts with enough money, time, and resources. That's a clue. So I might have went off in a tangent. Hey, do me a favor, please. I simply adore helping you guys. But let's come up with a name for this if we could. It'd be great. Maybe I'll get the URL. I'll kind of look at, driving in a Camaro, talking to people. I don't know, whatever it's going to be. Like the page, follow me, and I'll see you on the other side. And remember, you're one decision away from living the life of your dreams. Have a great day.